Well, Sheila Walters is here, and all is right with the world. She's a wonderful wife to Phil Walters, my dear friend. You've heard that behind every good man there's a better woman, and but I'm sure we're just talking about two quality people here. It's not one or the other; it's both. Sheila gave Phil 6 wonderful children and a great life that they shared. And this award is as much for Sheila as it is for Phil. But I asked Phil, I said, after all, 6 kids? Phil said, well, not to worry, we found out what was causing it. Phil excelled in many of the tracks that are well known to your people. Our people, I should say: Freeport Stadium, Agawam, New Haven, Kingsbridge Armory. I'm sure a lot of you have been to all of these. Cherry Park and all the historic East Coast tracks. Phil ran over 2,000 races before he got into sports cars, and I got to know him. And over the years, Phil told me quite a bit about his oval track, midget, and stock car racing, and about drivers like Bill Schindler. I'm sure a lot of you knew. But many of those stories are not for polite company. He didn't have to tell me about the second phase in his racing career because I was there. I was his co-driver in endurance races and his opponent in the sprint races, the short races. And I was privileged to see him a master at work up close, and most often right in front of me. I had another opportunity to see him at work, and that's when our routine was to trade off driving during practice, especially when we were at a new circuit, to see if one of us had found a better way around a track that the other hadn't noticed. But I tell you, that's very scary business. A driver is an optimist, and a passenger is always a pessimist. Once at Thompson, where the track went off the oval into a road course, very much out of character, Phil flat out lost it. I mean, he just blew it completely in a corner and slid off, spun around, finally stopped, parked, aligned neatly on the shoulder, and Phil was a cool fellow, and coolly got up and said, okay, time for you to take over. And he didn't admit a thing. But we always had the best results for the team when we shared a car, and that was usually in long distance races like Le Mans and Sebring, where we needed more than one driver. And I was very proud to be known as Phil's driving partner. He had a great faculty. He was immediately quick in any kind of race car. And he told me that it was from his midget experience, where they have one lap to qualify. There's no warming up and getting used to it and so on. They have to go right out and in one lap make their best time. And that particular ability actually shocked some seasoned race crews at Le Mans the first year we went there. The Cunningham cars were quite different from usually small displacement foreign cars, European cars. And Phil went out in a drizzling night practice when everybody else was kind of pussyfooting around, feel their way. When Phil came blasting through the pits and under the Dunlop Bridge about 150 miles an hour and just electrified the whole scene. After he retired from racing, Phil took up sailing, and he was a winner there too. taking the premier Eastern event, the Block Island Regatta. The story was he was a tough skipper. He drove his crew was his family, strict discipline. Sheila can tell you about that. But he was strict enough to win, but also fair enough to be forgiven. Phil had a very special incentive to survive his war injuries and his 2 careers in racing. He made sure he survived because he had Sheila to come home to. And I'm honored to be a part of this tribute to both of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alpini and the New England Hall of Fame for inviting me here today and for honoring my husband, Ted Tappett, Phil Walters. The first year he raced at Agawam was the year we were married in '49, and I remember many, many happy events that took place. My son Philip and his wife Diane are with me today, but I'm so pleased that you all remembered him. Thank you.